Long ago, in the grand palace of Susa, ruled a powerful king named Xerxes. He commanded over 127 provinces, stretching from India to Africa. One day, King Xerxes decided to show off his glory, so he threw a royal celebration, a feast that lasted 180 days. Gold cups, fine food, music, dancing. It was a sight to see. Afterward, he threw another feast for everyone in the city, from nobles to servants. While the king celebrated with the men, Queen Vashti hosted her own banquet for the women of the palace. One night, after drinking too much wine, the king sent messengers to bring Queen Vashti before the crowd so he could show off her beauty. But Vashti said no. She refused to be paraded before drunk guests. The king was furious and embarrassed. He asked his advisors, "What should I do?" They said, "If the queen disobeys you, soon all the women in the empire will stop respecting their husbands." So King Xerxes removed Vashti as queen and sent a royal decree across the empire. Time passed and the king missed having a queen, so his advisors suggested a search. Let beautiful young women be brought to the palace, and the one who pleases you most will be queen. Among the girls chosen was a kind and lovely young woman named Esther. She was Jewish, but no one knew. She had been raised by her older cousin Mordecai, who loved her like a daughter. Esther was taken to the palace, where she went through a whole year of beauty treatments. She found favor with everyone she met. When her turn came to meet the king, he was so pleased with her that he made her queen. Meanwhile, Mordecai uncovered a plot by two palace guards to kill the king. He told Esther, who told the king, and the plotters were caught. The event was recorded in the royal history books, but Mordecai was not rewarded. A man named Haman was promoted to be the king's top official. Everyone was commanded to bow to him, but Mordecai refused because he would only bow to God. Haman was enraged, but instead of punishing just Mordecai, he decided to destroy all the Jewish people in the empire. He told the king, "There's a group of people who follow their own laws and don't obey you. Let me get rid of them." The king agreed without knowing who Haman meant. A decree was sent out. On the 13th day of the 12th month, all Jews were to be killed. When Mordecai heard about the decree, he tore his clothes, wore sackcloth, and wept in the city streets. Esther sent messengers to ask what was wrong. Mordecai told her everything and urged her to speak to the king. But Esther was scared. "No one can go to the king uninvited. If I go without being called, I could die." Mordecai replied, "Maybe you became queen for such a time as this." Esther took a deep breath and made her decision. "Tell everyone to fast for 3 days, then I will go to the king. If I perish, I perish." Esther put on her royal robes and stood before the king's inner court. He saw her and held out his golden scepter. She was safe. "What is it, Queen Esther?" he asked. "I will give you anything, up to half my kingdom." Esther smiled. "I would like to invite you and Haman to a banquet." At the feast, the king again asked what she wanted. Esther said, "Come to another banquet tomorrow, and I'll tell you." That night, Haman bragged to his family, but still fumed about Mordecai. His wife suggested, "Build a gallows and ask the king to hang him." Haman liked the idea and had the gallows built. That night, the king couldn't sleep. He asked for the royal records to be read aloud. As they read, he heard the story of how Mordecai had once saved his life. "Did we ever honor him?" he asked. "No, your majesty," they replied. Just then, Haman arrived to ask about hanging Mordecai. Before he could speak, the king asked, "What should be done for a man the king wants to honor?" Thinking the king meant him, Haman said, "Dress him in royal robes, put him on the king's horse, and parade him around the city." "Excellent," said the king. "Do all that for Mordecai." Haman had to honor the very man he wanted to kill. At the second banquet, the king asked again, "What is your request, Queen Esther?" Esther stood up and said, "Spare my life and the lives of my people. We are to be destroyed." "Who would do such a thing?" the king asked. Esther pointed, "The enemy is Haman." The king was furious and stormed out. Haman begged Esther for mercy and fell on her couch just as the king returned. "Will he even attack the queen in my presence?" the king shouted. Haman was seized and hanged on the very gallows he had built for Mordecai. The danger wasn't over. The king's first decree couldn't be undone. But Esther wept before the king, begging him to save her people. King Xerxes allowed Esther and Mordecai to write a new decree. It said that the Jews could defend themselves on the day they were attacked. Mordecai was promoted to Haman's position and wore royal robes of blue and white. The Jews rejoiced, celebrating with joy and feasts. When the day of the attack came, the Jews stood together and defended themselves. They were victorious over their enemies. To remember how God had saved them, Mordecai and Esther established a yearly celebration called Purim, from Pur, the lots that Haman cast. It became a time of joy, feasting, and giving gifts to the poor. The story ends with Mordecai honored as second in command to the king, using his position to bring peace and justice. He was loved by the Jewish people, remembered for his bravery, wisdom, and faithfulness. The story of Queen Esther and Mordecai teaches us that God is always working behind the scenes, placing us exactly where we need to be for his purpose. Esther's courage, Mordecai's faithfulness, and their willingness to stand for what is right remind us that with prayer, bravery, and trust in God, ordinary people can do extraordinary things. Their story encourages us to speak up for others, honor God above all, and never underestimate the power of being in the right place for such a time as this. You can find the story of Queen Esther and Mordecai in the book of Esther in the Old Testament of the Bible, chapters 1 through 10.